Just Cheesy the Podcast, presented by Just Cheesy Productions.
Hi there. I'm your host, Fondue.
I'm Cheesy.
In this week's episode, we're going to learn about Bloomy rinds.
Bloomy.
We're going to talk about the history of the Bloomy rind.
Ooh.
We're going to talk about flowers in cheese,
Whoa.
on cheese, and as cheese.
Whoa.
We're also going to find out who won a cheese ball eating challenge, and we're going to learn about a new vending machine.
Ooh.
And of course, no episode would be complete without our very cheesy joke.
Ha joke.
Stay tuned for episode 129, Bloomy, on Just Cheesy the Podcast. Last week we learned all about the washed rind.
Yeah.
That you can wash it in brine or wine or beer.
Yeah.
And that they smell pretty bad.
Yeah, they do.
According to Wikipedia, a Bloomy rind is soft and fluffy and white in color.
Ooh.
And they describe it as having mild and lactic flavors that resemble onion or mushroom.
Ooh.
According to cheesegrotto.com, the origin of the Bloomy rind started all the way back in the Middle Ages in Normandy, France.
Whoa.
Clearly, this was an age before refrigeration.
Yeah.
So wives would make cheese, and they would actually put them in a cellar to keep it cool.
Oh.
These cheeses would pick up the mold and the fungus from the region.
Ew.
And according to SeriousEats.com, this mold process is not left to chance.
Oh.
Today, most of the mold or yeast is introduced during the cheese-making process in the form of powder.
Ah.
And according to the article, it can also be added after the coagulation of the curd,
Okay.
or it can be misted onto the surface of a finished formed cheese prior to aging.
Whoa.
On the website giannicleescaldwell.com, there is a great article about Bloomy rind cheeses.
Yeah.
Curd is formed,
Yeah.
and then mesophilic cultures are added, like Penicillium camembert,
Sure.
Geotrichum candidium, or even yeast.
Whoa.
The article at the Cheese Grotto describes the Penicillium candidum as a fluffy white-colored mold.
Okay.
Geotrichum candidum is described as squiggly, cream-colored fungus.
Ew.
They say the curd is molded into a shape.
Okay.
Draining occurs by pressing it over 12 to 24 hours.
Okay.
Salting occurs after the forms are unmolded. Drying occurs for about a day or two.
Sure.
Ripening is done at 95% humidity
Okay.
at about 50 to 55 degrees Fahrenheit.
Whoa.
And they say this is done until a good coverage of white mold exists.
Ew.
Cheese Grotto says that when a Bloomy rind cheese ages, the lactic acid will continue to break down the curd into a flavorful, aromatic, complex cheese.
Nice.
How it goes depends on the height and density of the cheese.
Okay.
They say that a squattier or a really thin Bloomy rind cheese with a high moisture content will break down into spreadable, gooey wonder bursting with mushroomy, earthy flavors.
Yum.
And they say a taller, denser cheese with less moisture won't break down on the interior, but the Bloomy rind will impart a white button mushroom, often mineral flavor to the cheese.
Wow.
You're thinking to yourself, ew, I don't think I've had it.
Yeah,
Well,
no.
you probably have, or you at least know what it is.
Really?
One of the favorites is none other than brie.
Oh, yeah.
Brie is a Bloomy rind cheese.
Yeah.
Camembert and things like Humboldt fog are also included.
Yummy.
Some people scoop out the innards and spread it on a cracker.
Ooh.
Some people eat the entire thing.
Yeah.
The rind is edible on most of the Bloomy rind cheeses.
Whoa.
And they say that you should let it come to room temperature before you enjoy it.
Wow.
Some people even have you bake it,
Ooh.
where it becomes ooey, gooey, and warm.
Yum.
Bloomy rind cheeses are not sponsors.
Nope.
But if they were, the ad would go right here. Have you ever wanted to listen to the web?
Yeah.
Well, Newsly makes that possible.
They do.
They're an all-in-one audio super app for iOS and Android.
Super app.
You can listen to trending articles on the web on topics that you choose and get them read to you in a natural human voice.
What kind of topics?
Sports,
Cheese?
tech, business, science.
Cheese?
I'm sure there's even cheese.
Yay.
They even have an entire section for podcasts.
Are we there?
Of course we are.
Ooh.
It's one of my new favorite podcast apps. They even have digital radio.
Holy cow.
Just go to www.newsly.me to download it free.
Whoa.
Or use the link in the description. If you use the promo code CHEESY, that'll get you 1 month free premium subscription.
Yay, Newsly.
Now, back to the podcast. I know I can't see any of you, but show of hands. When I said bloomy, you were thinking, oh, April showers bring May flowers. And what kind of floral cheeses are we talking about today?
My hands up.
Me too, Cheesy.
Yeah.
But did you know there are actually cheeses made with flowers?
Whoa.
We're still on cheesegrotto.com where they talk about something called Alp Blossom. This is one of the best known flower cheeses.
Whoa.
They say it's savory and it comes from Austria's what they call the hay belt.
Okay.
I've never had it, but they're describing it here. They say its rind is coated with a confetti of colorful, fragrant dried flowers like rose,
Neat.
marigold, lavender, and chevrolet.
That's cool.
It's described as adding floral sweetness to an umami-rich profile.
Whoa.
Hudson flower is also a floral cheese.
Really?
It's a collaboration between Old Chatham Sheep Dairy and Murray's Cheese.
Wow.
The cheese is coated with herbs, seeds, and hop flowers before it's aged.
Ooh.
They describe it as piney, smooth, creamy, and mellow.
Whoa.
Pennsylvania has a cheese called Honey Bell.
Ooh.
I mean, according to this, it's almost a double bloomy. It's actually a bloomy rind that grows around the dried flowers.
Wow.
There's one called Late Bloomer, Lait. Get it? There's elderflower tome, elderflower cheddar, la-di-da lavender cheddar.
La-di-da.
But they suggest that you can actually make your own flour cheese at home.
Really?
They say to choose some fresh edible flowers.
Ooh.
And they say the secret is to use unaged cheeses
Whoa.
like paneer or ricotta or mascarpone.
Ooh.
They say you can roll it in dried rose petals
Ooh.
or press edible flowers into the surface.
Wow.
PerishableNews.com has a picture of Alp Blossom, and it almost looks like birthday cake confetti.
Yeah, it does.
FormaggioKitchen.com has another cheese.
Yeah.
It's a pasteurized used milk cheese called,
Oh, no.
sorry, ahead of time,
Oh, my goodness.
Cerro de Angel.
Oh, boy.
It comes from Spain. It's covered in edible flowers like rose, heather, mallow, and sweet chamomile.
Ooh.
There's even a vegan cheese with flowers in it.
Wow.
There's a website called thevremery.com, and they have a feta with flowers.
Ooh.
It's studded with hand-dried edible flowers, and it looks great.
Yeah, it does.
But what if you don't fancy eating flowers?
Yeah.
There's a Tibetan cheese called Flower of Raja.
Whoa.
This cheese is made in Nepal from yak's milk.
Ooh.
It's heated and ripened in a big copper vat. It's curdled, drained, and molded into wheels.
Ooh.
It's dry cured with red salt, aged and then wrapped in scarves and packed in bamboo baskets.
Yum.
Okay, let's say you want a shape of a flower rather than just in name only or physical flowers in your cheese.
Yeah.
Well, there's something called Saint Albret.
Okay.
According to Wikipedia, this was invented in 1976.
Whoa.
It's ripened for a couple of weeks, and it's formed into a shape like the head of a flower.
Whoa.
There are petals formed around a disc.
Ooh.
When the disc or the form in the middle is removed, it gives a hollow center and it gives the impression of a flower.
Yeah.
It's kind of a 70s daisy look.
Yeah, it is.
But in this day and age, anybody that has Pinterest or Instagram or TikTok or any of the socials knows that there are some really intricate looking cheese boards out there.
Heck yeah.
According to WisconsinCheese.com, they teach you how to make cheese flowers.
Ooh.
First of all, they suggest using young cheeses
Sure.
because the aged cheeses, while they're very good, they have a lot less moisture and they get brittle and they crack easily.
Oh, yeah.
So we're talking cheeses like Gouda, Havarti, mozzarella, or cheeses like Colby, Munster, possibly even Swiss.
Ooh, yum.
They recommend having it sliced because they're looking at an 1/8-inch thickness.
Whoa.
And then they say to take that slice and cut it into circles using either a glass or a cookie cutter.
Oh, yeah.
You're going to take your circle and you're going to fold it in half.
Okay.
You've technically got 5 slices here. You've got 2 that are folded in half
Okay.
and 3 that are unfolded.
Okay.
You're taking the 6th one and you're rolling it into a tube.
Okay.
They're spaced out on the board, so it goes half, whole. You take your little rod you've made and you roll that whole thing up and it looks like a rose.
Oh, yeah.
Now, I'm definitely not describing it well.
Nope.
It would be best if you go to WisconsinCheese.com where they actually have pictures where you can actually see what they're doing.
Yeah, go there.
But it looks like you can do this with things like salami or ham.
Ooh.
Sargento.com also has some tutorials where they say you can use things like pepperoni.
Yum.
They've made an entire bouquet here on the board.
Whoa.
And it looks just beautiful.
Yeah, it does.
It's time for my favorite segment.
This week in cheese.
According to WLWT.com, A man wanted to challenge himself to see how many cheese balls he could eat in 30 minutes.
Oh, sure.
Now, these are those orange cheese puffs.
Yeah.
He said his goal was to eat 700 of them in 30 minutes.
Holy cow.
And he did. And he washed it down with water in front of hundreds of spectators in New York's Union Square Park.
Whoa.
And he said, and I quote, so many people were counting on me. So despite hurling up in my mouth a little bit,
Ew.
I kept it down and made the people proud a little bit. But if not, sorry.
Ew.
He also says that he went home a hero.
Wow.
According to PhillyMag.com, there is another cheese vending machine.
Whoa.
Now, we've actually physically been to the one in New York.
Yeah, we have.
I bet you didn't know we actually have a map on our website.
Yeah?
It actually catalogs the cheese places that we've been.
It does.
And on this map, we have East Hill Creamery.
Ooh.
And they have a real-life cheese vending machine.
Oh, yeah.
This article says that in Philly, the Perrystead Dairy has installed a 24-hour self-serve cheese dispensary.
Ooh.
They say not only does this actually have their handcrafted cheeses, but they also have crackers and jams and chutney and charcuterie,
Ooh.
even stylish serving essentials.
Whoa.
This isn't just a vending machine. This is like a little booth, and it has a vending machine inside, and it's
Yeah.
the kind that you slide the little door over and you pick up what you want out of it.
Yeah.
It looks so cool.
I'm ready for a joke, Fondue.
Okay. Why don't Bloomy rind cheeses make good detectives?
I don't know. Why?
Because they soften up during the interrogation. Get it? They soften up during interrogation?
That was silly.
Yeah, it was. And it was a little bit cheesy. Thanks for listening to Just Cheesy the Podcast, episode 129, Bloomy.
Thank you.
Do you prefer to listen to your podcasts on YouTube?
Yeah.
Well, now you can find us there as well.
Whoa.
Check out Just Cheesy on YouTube to get all of your back episodes of Just Cheesy the Podcast.
And stay cheesy, everybody.